Hey guys, welcome to Voxel Studios. On this episode of Startup Mindset, I have the pleasure to speak with Mariya Pak, who is a project manager at a fintech company in San Francisco, and we'll be talking about the power of side projects. Mariya, so good to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Why are side projects important?
So I think that side projects help you cultivate the passions. It starts with an interest and then you have a lot of them, but a lot of people don't actually have proper passions. And so I think through projects you actually get to experiment a little bit and dig more into figuring out what your passions are.
Passions is not something that you find, it's something that you create.
Yes, 100%. I learned it the hard way in a way. I think that it's exactly what you said. You cannot really find a passion that's within you already. And I always thought that maybe it's just something wrong with me. I don't have something that I'm truly passionate about. It's because I didn't really dig deeper when I had a few interests and just to work on them and really protect them to become growing passions. And so I think that's 100% right.
What is your current major side project?
What I'm doing right now is putting a TED Talk style event for immigrant female founders in STEM. For me, that's something that kind of combined two passions of mine, and right now we're having our first event on April 25th here in San Francisco.
I'm sure you had a lot of side projects happening, a lot of interest at the time. How did you pick this particular project to work on?
It actually came out as in a course. The course was called the Project Course, and it's helped you to find self-expression and leadership through the project. And so the first day they basically set us up and said, okay, pick something that you're interested in. And I was really confused because I thought that through this project course we're going to actually figure out what it's going to be. But on the first day I just had to pick something. And the way I picked it is two things that I'm actually really interested in. One is TED Talks, so I would always go to TEDx events, and two is entrepreneurship and just starting a startup. So blending those two and being an immigrant and a woman myself in tech, it kind of blended all of that together in a very niche but specific, I guess, event.
What are some of the challenges you faced so far maintaining sort of full-time jobs and side projects?
Yeah, there's a lot of interests that I have, and one, I definitely have to work here because I'm on a visa, and so that's a requirement to just be 100% focused and be good at what I do. On a side note though, I wanted to cultivate something of my own and create something that I can call mine. And so doing that on the side and picking things was really hard, especially because you have to do it in the evening, and sometimes that's not the prime time to do certain things. Like maybe recording a video is better during the day, and then on the weekend maybe some things are not available as readily as on a weekday. So finding time and managing that and trying to combine the two at the same time, maneuvering sometimes, that was really hard. But there's also deeper issues with one is how do you start something? For me it was really difficult because I didn't really know where to start, and also sometimes I get really discouraged when things don't really go the way I expect them, or I don't get a nice shout out or the result that I expect. So it's really hard to maintain that level of excitement, much easier to get disappointed when there's no progress seen. And I think all of the millennials, just like us, we kind of really thrive on things that give us that instant gratification, whatever way it is, and it's sometimes it's really hard to do it when you're just starting out and there's no traction.
There's actually this really good book it's called Life Design or Designing Your Life by some people from Stanford, because there's a life design course you can take at the D School at Stanford, and they actually talk about the importance of prototyping your own life. For example, you either want to pivot a little bit your direction of where you're going in your career, and before you actually jump and leave and do something that has a lot of unknowns, you might want to actually explore different things and give it a chance to kind of thrive. And so you might, initially, they're talking about how you can do a little bit of a divergent thinking and sort of ideation and kind of just let ideas flow, and then you narrow down to 2 or 3 things, and then you pursue those interests to kind of test the waters.
I think that's a really good way to explore your passions and interests. A lot of times, so I actually always thought when I was younger, I thought, oh gosh, my friends, they're so passionate about something. One was a DJ, and he just lived and like breathed DJing and music, and he was just stuck in his, like behind the booth or like downstairs in some kind of den, just practicing and mixing stuff. And I just never really thought that I have something like that I knew that I'm passionate about. But actually, you have a lot of interests, and everyone has tons of interests. Some people say, oh, you know, I love traveling or hanging out with friends. We all like that. That's not a true passion necessarily, but there are some certain things that maybe not everyone is interested in, but you have a slight inclination to explore a little bit more, and that's the time to go and explore that. And if you have many of those, I think you can, as you said, it's good to do like mind mapping in a way where you just go and let your mind free and think of all of the things that you're interested in and where it takes you and what you could do with them. And what's interesting about the project is that you're giving it a more solid chance rather than just free-flowing. So you pick a target, because the project has a start and an end. And that's how you set yourself. And you maybe can pick up some key milestones along the way, what you want to do, but there's a target that you're aiming for. And I think like designing and prototyping, that's exactly that. And with the project's help, you can maybe even set up some plans for a few of them, and then see which one takes you into a more exciting path for you. And once you pick a few, then those points will actually give you a good, I guess, compass to navigate through it. And you can also set yourself a timeline as to how long you want to give it a solid try. Because then if you don't get the results that you like right away, at least you know that you have certain time to give it a really good shot at it, instead of just shutting it down on the first no or negative outcome of some sort, or not as positive.
Something important to also consider is that failure. And you've experienced that yourself, and sometimes in side projects it's easy to if you experience some failure, you know, your project didn't go anywhere, you follow that timeline and plan, but maybe you're discouraged to give another side project a chance. But I think you have some good insights to share with our audience about that. So from some of your failed side projects.
For me, it's really easy to get discouraged when I have a negative, I guess, result, or not as positive of a reaction from someone. So one example of a failed project, I guess, is, there's actually quite a few, but there's a few prominent ones. One is, I actually started the startup before, and we worked really hard to build something. And then when we went to the market in a way and try to validate it and sell it and see if people are interested in what we built, we learned that there's not enough budget for something like that, maybe that's not as big of a problem as we thought it was, or people were just not ready to accept that technology. So that was quite a disappointment for me personally. And it took me a while to kind of come back to starting something new. And more recent one is I don't know if it's a failure, but I started a podcast myself, and I tried to record all of the videos and audio, and I would upload it everywhere, and I didn't get as many views and as many, I guess, downloads or whatever that I was expecting right away. But I've only started and maybe done 6 of them at that point, but I got really highly discouraged just to continue because there was only maybe 100 likes per video. That's kind of a failure that is hard to keep yourself going, but I think if you actually give yourself time and you don't focus on what the outcome is or what the reaction is from others. If you're interested truly, that's something that you really like, and you give it a solid shot, you need to put yourself through a much longer time and just keep at it. If you're enjoying the process, doesn't matter what the reaction from the outside is, as long as you're actually enjoying this process right now and giving it a solid chance to succeed.
Going back to your main side project now, you also found a team, people who their interests aligned with your interests. So how did that come about?
I was just sharing with a few friends about what I'm about to do. That was just an idea, and at that time I didn't really have a solid plan. But I started thinking, who can I actually talk to? And there are people in my network that are really connected to others, and I could, just by talking to people, I can find someone who has the same interests. For me, it was just finding a few people, key people who know a lot of other people in their network and would be interested in connecting me to them. So that's how it evolved. I really only reached out to a few of my friends who then introduced me to other friends of theirs. And then some other people heard me talking about it and just wanted to join. I didn't even plan to enroll them into it. And the team formed itself in a perfect way because a lot of skills that we have are very complementary. There are friends who come from marketing background and journalism. There are friends who come from tech background, people who come from event coordinator, from other engineering sides. And I think combining all of the skills gave us a really good foundation and an opportunity to reach out to all of our networks that are very diverse. It spread the word and gave us this really cascading effect of getting a lot of interest from others and sponsorships and the venue, and so it became a really cool effect that I didn't even expect to have that outcome.
That's beautiful. It's like right now we're talking about the power of side projects, but I think in doing this particular side project, you also discover the power of your network. And I think that's that's one of the powers of having side projects, is that it actually allows you to find all these resources through the people you already know, right? And essentially the people probably in your network being the biggest resource.
Yeah, that's very true. So because of the course, it was a self-expression and leadership through the project. The idea was that you want to be seen by your network in a certain way. So by picking a project, you're now declaring that this is something you're creating, and they're gonna refer to you as not just you, but as someone who's creating and has this passion and building something. So through that, it allowed me not only reach out to my personal network and the network of my friends, but also just go beyond that to people that I would never even reach out by myself to. Because before, I would be just reaching out as myself, maybe looking for a job or some opportunity. In this case, I represent an idea, something that I'm standing for, and something that's a passion of mine and probably will be a passion of many others, because it's not just about me. It's about elevating women entrepreneurs and giving them a chance to give a TED Talk on their journey, on their challenges. And so by bringing that into the picture, I'm reaching out to people completely out of my reach in a way, who are so high up in some other areas that I would be intimidated to just ping directly. But through that, I've met founder of Women 2.0, just by reaching to her on Twitter and saying that I'm thinking to start something very similar, and through your experience, I would like to get your advice. And so before, I would probably never reach out to her by myself, and there were people from other companies like TechCrunch and Morgan Stanley that personally I would never even have anything to talk to them about. But through this, it allowed me to connect with them and understand what their interest is, and in this particular area, how can they benefit, not just contribute to this project, but also what is that they want to get out of it.
No, this is such a valuable experience that you're sharing, that you've had yourself, because in the end, this show is about encouraging people to start. It's about the startup mindset, from starting startup to starting a side project, right? And who knows, maybe a side project is actually a great way to eventually, potentially segue into something more than just a side project.
Exactly. You never know where it's gonna continue or roll into. For just doing this event, I learned a few things about events, and I thought that there's a lot of gaps that I personally experienced through just hosting a few events. And so there's a couple of more side projects that spun out of that. But even this idea with the event, I never knew that there is such a big interest in that. So just starting that already gave me an idea to create a series, and a lot of other people in the community are reaching out to cover this and maybe convert it into different formats in the future, but having some kind of focus. So we're going to explore and experiment with different formats and different people, and maybe smaller groups or larger groups, having involved different companies or maybe not at all. And so I think that's really opening up doors that I never even thought that would be possible, just because it was an idea and usually I wouldn't even follow up on.
Excellent. Mariya, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your both the challenges you faced and the benefits of starting side projects with our audience today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Mariya.
And to our audience out there, thank you for joining today. And we'd love to hear from you, so do comment below and share with us the side projects you're currently working on and some of your failures and success stories. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the Voxel Studios YouTube channel. And if you like this interview, do give us a thumbs up. And I hope to see you next time.